They say the isolation of the night shift plays tricks on your mind, that the absolute darkness makes you see things that aren't really there. I used to believe that too, back when I worked in a glass coffee booth in the middle of an empty highway. Every single night, the exact same customer would pull up and order 2 black coffees, even though he was completely alone in his car. For weeks, I laughed it off. I thought he was just a crazy guy talking to an empty passenger seat. That was until the night he looked me dead in the eye and told me the second cup wasn't for his imaginary friend at all. It was for the guy who worked my shift last winter, the one they never found. This happened 3 years ago, right around late November. I was desperate for rent money, so I took a graveyard shift at a tiny, standalone drive-through coffee shop on mile 26 of the highway. It was essentially just a glass box with an espresso machine and a sliding window, surrounded by nothing but thick, dense woods that turned ink black the moment the sun went down. The nearest gas station was at least 10 miles away. Standing in that glass box, I felt like a fish in a glowing aquarium. I could only see a few feet of wet asphalt around me, but anyone or anything hiding in the tree line could see me perfectly. Most nights passed in a dead, suffocating silence, just the hum of the fridge and the buzzing of the neon open 24/7 sign. And then he showed up. He arrived at exactly 3:15 a.m. A rusted silver Toyota slowly emerged from the dense fog and rolled silently up to my window. I slid the glass open. A blast of freezing air hit my face. Sitting behind the wheel was a man in his late 40s wearing a faded gray overcoat. His face was unnaturally still. His skin was pale, almost gray under the neon light, and his eyes were completely glassy. He didn't blink, not once. 2 large black coffees, no sugar, he said. His voice was entirely monotone, like a broken answering machine. I made the order. As I handed him the cardboard carrier, our fingers brushed. His skin was ice cold. He took the coffees, placed 1 cup in his cup holder, and then, very carefully, with both hands, he moved the second cup over to the empty passenger seat. I squinted. The passenger seat belt was buckled. It was wrapped tightly around nothing, and the worn leather seat was slightly depressed, as if someone heavy had just sat down. But there was no one there. The car slowly pulled away, vanishing back into the dark woods. It became a routine. Every single night, exactly 3:15 a.m., 2 black coffees, no sugar. I started noticing tiny details that made my stomach drop. When he paid, his lips would sometimes move slightly, as if he was carefully listening to someone whispering right next to him. One night, he lingered at the window. He was staring straight ahead while I rang up his order. I glanced over at the passenger seat. The second cup of coffee. It wasn't full anymore. The liquid level was lower by at least an inch. I swear on my life, the man hadn't touched it. There were fresh drops of coffee on the rim of the plastic lid, like someone had just taken a small, slow sip. The next night, I pulled up the security camera footage that pointed at the drive-through window. On the grainy black and white monitor, I could see his car. I could see him. But when I zoomed in on the passenger side, my breath hitched in my throat. The steam rising from that second hot cup of coffee wasn't just floating upward. It was bending. It was wrapping around an invisible silhouette. I could clearly see the outline of hunched shoulders and a head leaning directly over the cup. When he pulled up later that night, I couldn't hold it in. "Your passenger is quiet tonight," I said, my voice betraying my fear. The man slowly turned his head, but he didn't look at me. He looked past me, deep into the shadows of my own coffee booth. For the first time, he smiled. It was a strained, painful-looking grin. "She says he got closer today," the man whispered. I didn't sleep at all that morning. A couple of days later, the tension was eating me alive. Every shadow in the booth felt heavy, suffocating. But around 2 a.m., a wave of pure, undeniable relief washed over me. A lone police cruiser pulled up to the window, I slid the glass open, almost aggressively eager to see a normal human face. The officer was an older guy, thick mustache, looking exhausted. He ordered a black coffee to go. As the espresso machine hissed, I started rushing my words. I told him about the rusted Toyota, about the strange man at 3:15 a.m. who ordered 2 coffees for nobody. I practically begged him to just park around the back and wait for an hour, just to check the guy out and make sure I was safe. I turned around and handed the officer his cup. He took it, but he didn't look at me. His eyes were fixed on something over my right shoulder, deep inside the glass booth, in the darkest corner near the back door. The color completely drained from his face. His jaw went slack. "Officer?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Did you hear me?" He didn't answer. His hand, shaking slightly, reached into his pocket. He pulled out a crumpled $5 bill and practically threw it onto the metal counter. He didn't take his change. He didn't even put a lid on his scalding hot coffee. Without saying a single word, he rolled his window up so fast it slammed into the frame. He threw the cruiser into drive and sped off down the pitch-black highway, his tires screeching on the wet pavement. I was left standing there, completely alone, my heart pounding so hard my ribs ached. If a man with a badge and a gun was too terrified to even speak to whatever was standing behind me, what chance did I have? The very next night was a Friday. The fog was so thick I couldn't even see the highway. A massive storm rolled in, pouring rain in heavy sheets. Around 3 a.m., the power grid along the highway failed. My glass booth switched to a backup battery, leaving me with nothing but a dim, red emergency light. I was trapped in an ocean of absolute blackness. 3:15 a.m. headlights pierced the fog, but this time the car didn't pull up to the window. It stopped about 30 feet away. The engine cut off. The man stepped out into the freezing rain. He walked around the car, opened the passenger door, and held out his hand. He held it exactly as if he were supporting someone else's weight. They started walking toward me, the man and the empty space right beside him. Panic took over. I slammed the sliding window shut, locked it, and backed away into the center of the booth. The man walked right up to the glass. Rainwater streamed down his dead face. He raised a hand and knocked. Tap, tap, tap. "You know there's nobody with you," I yelled through the glass, losing my grip on reality. The man slowly shook his head. "You thought that too. Your first week." His voice somehow pierced through the thick glass and the storm, echoing right in my head. "What are you talking about?" I backed up toward the rear exit. He leaned his face against the cold window. "That second coffee, it's not for me. It's for the one standing right there." He raised a pale finger and pointed inside my coffee booth, into the dark corner directly behind my chair. "The barista who worked here before you. He started leaving a second cup for the thing in the corner too. And then, one night, he just vanished." My heart stopped. A sudden, overwhelming smell of damp earth and rot filled the inside of my booth. The man outside smiled wider. "Tonight's coffee is for you." In that exact second, a wet handprint appeared on the glass, right at my eye level. But it didn't appear on the outside. It appeared on the inside, on my side of the glass. Something invisible was standing directly behind me, leaning its hand against the window right next to my face. Under the pressure of that invisible hand, the thick glass let out a quiet, sickening crack. I kicked the heavy metal back door open. I don't even remember running to my car parked in the rear lot, but I remember the sounds. As I sprinted through the rain, I didn't just hear one set of footsteps chasing me. I heard two. One was slow, heavy, and wet, but the second one was incredibly fast. It sounded like loud, frantic clicking, like something with far too many legs scurrying rapidly across the wet asphalt, closing the distance. I dove into my car, slammed the locks, and floored it onto the pitch-black highway, not even bothering to turn my headlights on until I was miles away. The police found nothing, of course, just a cracked window from the inside and my name tag lying on the floor. The franchise owner completely ghosted me when I asked about the previous employee. I quit that morning and moved out of state. But you know what the worst part is? I work a corporate office job now, up on the 7th floor. There are always people around. But sometimes when I work late and go to the break room to make coffee, I only ever pour 1 cup. Yet, when I sit back down at my desk, I sometimes notice the coffee level is just a little bit lower, and there are fresh drops on the plastic lid. It feels like whoever was drinking that second cup followed me. If you ever work a night shift alone and you get the creeping feeling that someone is watching you, never offer them a drink, because they just might accept. Good night.